The story follows the exploits of Captain Hae-Rang and her crew as they head off in search of lucrative treasure. However, along the way they run into a group of fishermen and cross paths with the charismatic Mak-Yi, who boasts that he's the best sword fighter in Goryeo. After some double-crossing, disagreements and disaster, the two sides join forces in order to find royal gold which can set them up for life. It's a pretty simple fetch quest in truth, although along the way the group come across a rival group of pirates who have the same idea, leading to a chase as they both scramble to take off with the gold. Does Mak-Yi defeat the general? As the film reaches its exciting climax, the rival group catch up with Mak-Yi and Hae-Rang. Mak-Yi duels it out with the general, whom he has history with. They both worked together in the past, but now they're enemies. The general injures Mak-Yi, but he continues to fight, eventually joined by his crew members who help tip the scales in his favor and help kill the general. Does Hae-Rang manage to make it out the whirlpool? Meanwhile, Hae-Rang faces off against the other ship's general, as well as trying to thwart his cannon-laden ships. However, a volcanic explosion causes the sea to cave in and become a whirlpool, which she's forced to navigate. There are some similarities too at World's End here, especially as Hae-Rang tries to navigate around the water to safety. With her expert seafaring skills, Hae-Rang is successful, narrowly avoiding the brunt of a monstrous wave that threatens to kill them all. The desperate general turns the cannons to her ship, attempting to sabotage her escape. However, the exploding lava sees him perish, and Hae-Rang survives. However, she does so without her ship, as it ends up being destroyed by the waves anyway. Does Mak-Yi get the gold back? While all this is going on, Mak-Yi stumbles upon a penguin which happens to have a gold bar in its mouth. He swims down, holding onto a rope attached to the penguin, where he finds an enormous ship full of gold. However, it's also guarded by a bunch of penguins who seem to be native and sentient, if the numerous slaps and poop jokes are anything to go by. After some initial hostility, Mak-Yi manages to keep the gold for himself. How does Lost Treasure end? Mak-Yi sails out the cave and manages to reunite with the rest of the crew, gold in tow. With the group delighted, Mak-Yi and Hae-Rang kiss, uniting themselves as a couple to lead their crew forward. With the lost treasure in their grasp and a brand new ship to sail the seas with, they head off into the sunset as we fade to black. While there's not a lot to Last Royal Treasure, the story does manage to make good on its goblin face foreshadowing, along with adding some rip-roaring action for good measure. In the end, the good guys survive, the bad guys perish, and everything is left open for a possible sequel in the future. The Pirates. The Last Royal Treasure is a simple, seafaring adventure movie that lacks ambition. With a bare-bones story, weak characterization and hit-or-miss comedy, the film lives and dies by its action, and how much tolerance you have to wait for the next one to appear on screen. The Last Royal Treasure isn't particularly deep and doesn't really have any twists either, making for a somewhat mellow and underwhelming watch at times. Despite that, Last Royal Treasure does have some good jokes here, along with a pretty compelling set of actors, who do the best with their scripts. For those who have watched the previous film before this, Last Royal Treasure essentially rehashes the same ideas that one had, adding a sprinkling of Pirates of the Caribbean. At World's End for good measure. The story follows the exploits of Captain Hae-Rang and her crew as they head off in search of lucrative treasure. However, along the way they run into a group of fishermen where they cross paths with the charismatic Mak-Yi, who boasts that he's the best sword fighter in Goryeo. After some double-crossing, disagreements and disaster, the two sides join forces in order to obtain some royal gold, which can set them up for life. It's a pretty simple fetch quest in truth, although along the way the group come across a rival band of pirates who have the same idea, leading to a chase of sorts, as they both scramble to take off with the gold. It's simple and rather predictable too, which is a shame because this really doesn't hold a candle to something like Pirates of the Caribbean. Given that film is nearly 20 years old, it's superior to this one in almost every single way. Instead of quirky twists or self-aware satire, Last Royal Treasure plays everything straight, and it gives the film a stagnated feel. Don't get me wrong, there is fun to be had here, but it comes at the expense of a plot that's hard to really get invested in, and fails to add any surprises along the way. The whole final act of the film feels like it's been ripped right from Pirates of the Caribbean. At World's End too, which doesn't help, while the CGI and visual effects in this movie are a real mixed bag. The CGI penguins look really poor, while the physics are all over the shop. To be fair though, the final point can be forgiven somewhat, partly because of the exaggerated tone this movie adopts. Less forgiving though is the amount of deus ex machina and contrivances that crop up. Whenever our characters are in danger, there's always something there, whether it be a whale, human, or a freak weather event, to save our heroes from certain doom. These moments only lean into the aforementioned issues with the story. Despite its flaws though, The Last Royal Treasure is a surprisingly fun movie. Even with all these issues, there's enough here to enjoy and see through to the end. The acting is brilliant from all involved, some of the jokes are great, while the swashbuckling action is a definite plus. It's not perfect, and it doesn't hold a candle to some of the other seafaring adventures out there, but if you're in the mood for some rip-roaring action and can overlook the story issues, you should find just enough to like, flaws and all. Thanks for listening. Ending Explained. What did you think of the ending? Do you think there will be a sequel? Let us know your thoughts in the comments box.